All right, let's dive into it. Today, it's one of the most epic clashes in history. You know, the Punic Wars?
Ooh, yeah.
I think we all remember maybe a little bit about this from school, Hannibal.
Right.
Maybe some elephants, something about crossing the Alps. But we're going way beyond that today.
Yeah.
We're going to be looking at this history.com article, and we're going to pull out some of the most interesting stuff about the Punic Wars
Okay.
and talk about it, you know, the drama, personalities. There are a lot of interesting twists and turns that shaped this conflict that lasted for like a century.
Wow, over a century, yeah.
Yeah. So let's start with Carthage.
Okay.
They weren't just some Roman rival. Like,
Right.
they were a total powerhouse, a maritime empire,
Yeah.
going back centuries before this even started.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, Carthage was founded by Phoenician settlers around 814 BC.
Wow.
That's over 500 years before the traditional founding of Rome.
It's
Yeah, so by 265 BC, they had built this thriving city-state in North Africa, controlling a vast trading network across the Mediterranean.
so they were already like set up.
Oh, yeah.
Like they were a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, they were renowned for their naval prowess, their wealth, their
Mhm.
advancements in shipbuilding, navigation. You know, to think of them as simply an underdog facing, the rising might of Rome wouldn't be doing them justice.
Yeah, that's like saying it's like we're watching a boxing match, right? And these are
Mhm.
two
Yeah.
heavyweight champions going head to head. It's not some underdog story.
Yeah, it's a clash of titans. And what makes it even more dramatic is that Rome and Carthage had actually maintained a relatively peaceful relationship for decades. They even had treaties in place.
Really?
Yeah.
So this wasn't like two empires just constantly at each other's throats.
Not at all.
Wow, okay. So you had these two powerful empires. You got Carthage dominating the sea, Rome on the rise.
Yeah.
What was the spark? What started this whole thing?
Well, it seems like it was a pretty minor dispute over the island of Sicily
Okay.
in 264 BC,
Sicily. I feel like every time I read about ancient history, Sicily is like
right in the middle of it.
in the middle of it. It's strategically located in the center of the Mediterranean, so it makes
Yeah.
sense. It was a valuable prize for any empire seeking to, control trade routes and exert influence.
Yeah.
So the city of Syracuse, backed by Carthage, clashed with the city of Messina, which appealed to Rome for support.
Gotcha.
So that kind of started the whole thing.
Interesting. So this local squabble basically kicks off
Yeah.
this huge rivalry.
Hmm.
And so Rome, a land power, decides to take on Carthage, the king of the seas.
Hmm.
That seems a little, I don't know, bold? Reckless, maybe?
Yeah, it was definitely a gamble. I mean, Rome knew they couldn't challenge Carthage's navy without a fleet of their own.
Right.
But they were determined. They actually built an entire navy from scratch.
Pretty much. They were copying captured Carthaginian ships. They were developing new tactics. It took them almost 20 years.
Wow.
But they were persistent, and they assembled this force that could actually challenge the Carthaginians at their own game.
So they basically said, we're going to beat them at their own game.
Mm.
We're just going to build a navy.
That's what they did.
And it took them 20 years.
Yeah, about 20 years.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Okay, building a navy is one thing. Winning battles against, these experienced Carthaginian sailors,
Right.
that's another thing. Did they stand a chance?
Yeah, they surprised everyone, probably including themselves.
Mm.
In 260 BC, the Roman fleet scored a major victory at the Battle of Mylae.
Okay.
They used this new boarding device. It was called the Corvus, which essentially turned naval combat into like land warfare,
Oh, interesting.
where the Romans had an advantage.
Oh, so they just turned it into something they were good at.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
And this win was huge for Roman morale. It proved that they could compete with Carthage.
Yeah, that must have sent shockwaves through Carthage. Like, wait a minute.
I'm sure, yeah.
These
Because
guys-
it was a huge psychological victory as well.
Yeah, so did Rome just dominate after that?
Not exactly. I mean, the war was a back and forth. There were victories on both sides.
Okay.
Rome even tried this daring invasion of North Africa in 256 BC, which ended in disaster,
Oh.
showing that Carthage wasn't going down without a fight.
So even with this new navy, it wasn't like a cakewalk. They couldn't just walk in and
Well,
take over.
It was brutal.
So this went on for years.
Yeah, the First Punic War raged for over 2 decades. Can you imagine?
No. It's hard to fathom the resources, the manpower, just like
The sheer determination
Yeah.
on both sides.
20 years of this.
Yeah.
But eventually someone has to win, right? Who won this first round?
Well, the turning point came in 241 BC at the Battle of the Aegates Islands. It was a decisive Roman naval victory. They crushed the Carthaginian fleet, forced them to negotiate. Carthage had to surrender Sicily, which became Rome's first overseas province, and that marked a major power shift in the Mediterranean.
Wow. 20 years of fighting,
Yeah.
and Rome takes Sicily. But I have a feeling this is just the beginning.
Oh, yeah. This is
It's round one.
the First Punic War may be over, but the rivalry is far from settled. Remember that uneasy piece we talked about?
Yeah.
Well, it's about to get a whole lot more uneasy.
Okay.
Yeah?
I'm ready. I'm on the edge of my seat. I can't wait to hear what happens next, but we got to pause here for now.
Okay.
We'll pick this up in part 2. We'll dive into the legendary Hannibal Barca,
Okay.
his plan to strike at the heart of Rome. You won't want to miss it.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the Punic Wars.
All right, so last time we left off, Rome had won the First Punic War.
Yes,
They got Sicily,
they did.
became a major naval power.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing Carthage was not too happy about this.
Oh, no, they were not happy at all. Especially after losing Sicily. Remember, Rome took control of Corsica and Sardinia.
Right.
Which further fueled that resentment in Carthage. But they weren't just sulking. They were establishing a new power base in Spain.
Oh, okay.
And this is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
They were led by a general named Hamilcar Barca. And he had a son who would become a legend.
Hannibal.
Hannibal, that's right.
Okay, now we're talking. This is the guy, he's the one with the elephants, right?
Yes, he's the one who marched those elephants over the Alps.
Over the Alps. Okay, so he wasn't just some, like, daredevil with a thing for elephant.
No. He was a brilliant military strategist,
Okay.
even as a young man. And he carried this deep hatred for Rome. Imagine this. When Hannibal was a boy, his father made him swear an oath of vengeance against Rome.
What's as, like, a kid?
Yeah, like a child, yeah.
Wow.
Talk about, having some influence on your life.
Yeah, it's like shaping you from day one.
Yeah, that's the kind of upbringing that can really shape a person, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. So how does he go from, this oath to actually, like, challenging Rome? What does he do?
Well, after Hamilcar died, Hannibal took command of the Carthaginian forces in Spain. And he was a very capable leader.
Okay.
He secured victories, he was expanding their holdings, but he never forgot that oath.
Oh, wow.
He saw Rome's growing power as a direct threat to Carthage's survival. And he decided, you know what? I'm going to strike a blow that's going to cripple them.
Okay, so this is where the elephants come in.
The elephants, yeah.
But, like, why the Alps? Why not just, like, attack by sea?
Well, Hannibal, he was a master of unconventional warfare.
Okay.
He knew that Rome had strengthened their navy after the First Punic War.
Yeah, they learned their lesson.
Right, so a direct naval assault would be too risky.
Okay.
So he chose a different route. He decided to march his army, including the war elephants.
Wait, with elephants?
Yes, with elephants,
Yeah.
over the Alps into Italy.
Alps. Are we talking about, like, the mountain?
Yeah, the snowy, treacherous Alps, yes.
Like where people ski and hike today?
Yes, exactly.
He took elephants over that.
It was an incredible move. I mean, historians, they still debate the exact route he took, how he overcame the challenges of moving an army with elephants through those mountains.
With elephants?
Yeah, no, it's mind-blowing.
That's crazy. What was Rome's reaction when they saw this? They must have freaked out.
They were completely caught off guard.
Yeah.
It sent shockwaves through Rome. They scrambled to assemble their legions.
Okay.
But Hannibal, he was on the move. He was too fast for them.
And he kept winning.
Oh, he was a master tactician.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had this string of victories. Ticinus, Trebia, Lake Trasimene, and each one he was demonstrating his superior skills and the discipline of his army. The Romans were they were reeling. They couldn't stop him.
So they're just getting, like, beat down over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, remember, this was only a few decades after the First Punic War,
Right.
which really stretched their resources thin.
Yeah, they put everything into that.
Exactly. And to have another conflict erupt, this time on their own soil, it must have been terrifying.
That's terrifying. But they didn't, like, just give up, right?
No, the Romans were nothing if not resilient.
Okay.
They just refused to give up, even when it seemed like, okay, this is impossible.
Yeah, and that's incredible.
Yeah, they would not give up.
All right, so we've got Hannibal. He's just winning and winning, but what was, like, his biggest win?
Well, his greatest triumph, a battle that's still studied in military academies today. It's the Battle of Cannae. This was 216 BC.
Okay.
Hannibal faced a much larger Roman army.
Oh.
But through some brilliant maneuvering, he managed to encircle the entire Roman legion.
Wait, encircle, like surround them.
Surround them, yeah, completely.
How did he do that? I thought like the Romans were supposed to be the best at war.
They were, but Hannibal, he was a genius. He used the terrain, he used the dust to his advantage, he faked a retreat, he drew the Romans in, and then he closed the trap.
Like a Venus flytrap.
Exactly. And the result was a massacre. Tens of thousands of Roman soldiers were killed.
Oh my gosh.
While Hannibal's losses, they were minimal. It was one of the most devastating defeats in Roman history.
It's like something out of a movie. So at this point, it's got to be over, right?
Yeah.
Like Rome's done.
Right. It seems like that. I mean, their legions are crushed.
Yeah.
Hannibal's undefeated. He's marching towards Rome.
Yeah.
But this is one of the great what-ifs of history.
Okay.
Why didn't Hannibal just march on Rome right then and there? Why didn't he finish them off?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Some historians believe that he didn't have the right siege equipment.
Okay.
He needed that to take a well-defended city like Rome. Others argue he just didn't have the manpower to occupy such a vast territory.
Yeah, it's not just about attacking, it's about holding it.
Right. Or maybe he underestimated the Roman will to resist.
Yeah, you don't want to underestimate that.
No, you don't.
Okay, so even after a loss like Cannae, Rome's not giving up. There's still a force. Wow. Okay. What did they do? How did they respond?
Well, while Hannibal was busy in Italy, a young Roman general named Scipio Africanus was emerging as a threat to Carthaginian interests in Spain.
Scipio Africanus, that name. That's a big name.
It is a big name.
Okay.
He was a brilliant strategist.
Okay.
And he realized to beat Hannibal, you got to go after his resources, attack the support networks. So he led a series of very successful campaigns in Spain. He captured key cities. He disrupted the flow of supplies and reinforcements to Hannibal's army.
So instead of fighting Hannibal head on, they're like, all right, we're going to cut off everything he needs.
Exactly.
Force him to come to us.
Yeah, it's like a strategic game of chess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. And it worked.
It worked. Scipio's victories forced Carthage to recall Hannibal from Italy to defend their homeland.
Wow. So after all this time, after all these wins, after almost taking Rome, Hannibal has to go home.
He has to abandon his dream.
Yeah, he's got to go back. And this Scipio, he's a game changer.
He is a game changer.
Okay.
And their confrontation in Africa, it's going to be one of the most legendary clashes in military history.
Oh, I bet.
The fate of both empires hangs in the balance.
Okay, I can't wait to hear about this. This is big.
Okay.
But I'm guessing we have to save that for next time.
Yes, we'll have to pick this up in part 3
Okay.
when we talk about the epic showdown.
All right, looking forward to it. Welcome back. We're wrapping up our deep dive on the Punic Wars.
Yeah.
And last time we left off with Hannibal, going back to Africa
Right.
to face this new threat, Scipio Africanus.
Yeah.
This sounds like it's going to be big.
Oh, it was epic for sure.
All right, so give us the details.
The Battle of Zama,
Okay.
202 BC.
Yeah.
It was the culmination of everything.
Okay, set the scene for us.
Oh, the tension must have been incredible.
Yeah.
Both armies were battle-hardened. They had been fighting for years in this brutal conflict. Hannibal, I mean, despite his setbacks, he was still, a military genius.
Yeah.
Scipio.
Yeah.
He was a rising star,
Yeah.
a worthy successor to, his grandfather's legacy.
Yeah.
And for the people of Carthage and Rome, I mean, this battle was everything.
Yeah.
This was their survival, their future, their place in the world.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did it play out? Did Hannibal try and pull another Cannae?
Well, Scipio, he'd learned a lot from Hannibal's tactics.
Okay.
And he used that knowledge to his advantage.
Okay.
He knew Hannibal was going to use the war elephants.
Right.
So he positioned his troops to counter that.
Wow.
He employed all these new tactics, drawing from his experience in Spain.
Okay.
And he just completely outmaneuvered Hannibal.
Yeah, he used Hannibal's own, genius against him.
Exactly.
Wow, that's impressive.
It was a decisive Roman victory.
Oh, wow.
Hannibal's army was routed. His dream of crushing Rome was over.
Wow.
The Second Punic War was over, and Rome emerged as the dominant power in the Western Mediterranean.
Well, that's it then, right? Game over.
It was a huge turning point.
So Rome's celebrating.
Oh, I'm sure they were.
But what about Carthage? What happened to them?
Well, they were forced to accept some really harsh peace terms.
Oh, okay.
They lost their overseas territories.
Yeah?
They had to pay heavy tributes to Rome.
Wow.
And they were forbidden from waging war without Rome's permission.
So they're basically, a client state now,
Essentially, yeah.
stripped of all their power, all their glory.
Yeah, it was a tragic fall from grace.
What about Hannibal? What happened to him?
Well, he didn't fade away.
Yes.
He went into politics.
In Carthage.
Yeah, in Carthage. He
Oh.
was working to reform their government, their finances.
Okay.
But, he remained kind of a thorn in Rome's side.
Not bad.
And eventually he fled into exile, fearing Roman retribution.
Okay.
And he ended up offering his military expertise to various kingdoms.
So even in defeat, he's still like a legend.
Oh, yeah. His name is synonymous with military brilliance and cunning.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
So did Carthage ever recover?
Sadly, no.
Okay.
There were still people in Rome who saw Carthage as a threat.
Even after all that, they lost the war.
I know
They
it.
lost everything.
They lost everything.
Yeah.
You have to remember that Rome was a growing empire.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of fear and paranoia about any potential rivals.
Okay.
They had economic interest, political maneuvering,
Right.
maybe just a fear that Carthage would rise again.
Yeah, they're like, let's just finish this.
One figure who really embodies this sentiment was Cato the Elder.
Cato the Elder.
He was a Roman senator.
Okay.
Powerful guy.
Okay.
He was obsessed with Carthage's destruction.
Really? What was his problem?
He was a staunch conservative, and he believed that even a weakened Carthage was a threat to Rome.
Okay.
He saw them as cunning, untrustworthy, and capable of, rebuilding their strength and challenging Rome again.
It sounds a little paranoid.
A little bit, yeah.
Did he have like any evidence, or was this just like a personal vendetta?
Well, he was a master of propaganda.
Okay.
He would remind the Senate about the threat of Carthage at every opportunity.
Okay.
There's this famous quote,
Okay.
"Carthage must be destroyed."
Wow. Dramatic.
Very dramatic, yeah.
Yeah?
He would even, bring fresh figs from North Africa into the Senate.
Figs?
Figs, yeah.
Why figs?
Just to show how close Carthage was,
Okay.
how easily they could strike again.
That's his evidence. Figs.
I mean, it might seem strange to us, but it worked.
Wow.
Yeah, his fear-mongering
Yeah.
and Rome's growing imperial ambitions,
Right.
it led to the Third Punic War.
Okay, so after all this time, they decided to go to war again based on, like, figs.
And the paranoia of Cato,
Wow.
it was 149 BC.
Okay.
And this war, this wasn't about territory, it wasn't about resources.
What was it about?
Annihilation.
Oh, wow.
They wanted to wipe Carthage off the map.
So less of a war, more of a,
Genocide? Yeah. Some historians use that term to describe what happened.
wow.
It was brutal, it was one-sided.
Carthage couldn't win, right?
No, I mean, they put up a good fight, but they were no match for Rome.
Yeah.
Yeah, after a 3-year siege, Roman forces, led by Scipio Aemilianus, the adopted grandson of Scipio Africanus,
Oh, wow.
stormed the city.
Oh, gosh.
What followed was just horrific.
Yeah.
Street fighting, house by house, massive casualties.
It's hard to even imagine
Yeah.
what happened to the people who survived.
Well, the city was destroyed.
Wow.
I mean, buildings were burned, temples were desecrated,
Gosh.
tens of thousands of people were sold into slavery.
That's awful.
It was a horrific end to once great civilization.
It's a reminder that these ancient wars, I mean, it wasn't just like guys on a battlefield.
Yeah.
This was brutal.
It was brutal.
Yeah.
It really shows the consequences of unchecked ambition.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we wrap this up, the Punic Wars, what are some things you think our listeners should take away from this?
Well, the Punic Wars, they were a pivotal moment in history,
Right.
a period of intense rivalry, incredible innovation, and ultimately tragedy.
Yeah.
And I think it reminds us of the cyclical nature of power, the dangers of, unchecked ambition,
Yeah.
the human cost of conflict.
Right. It's a reminder that history is never really over.
No.
The echoes of these conflicts, I mean, they affect us today.
Yeah.
They shape how we understand geopolitics, warfare, just the relationship between different cultures.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, any advice for our listeners?
Keep exploring, delve deeper into the lives of Hannibal, Scipio, Cato, all these individuals who shaped these events.
Yeah.
Research the military tactics, the political intrigue, the cultural clashes. I mean, there's so much to discover.
Absolutely, yeah.
The Punic Wars, they're a compelling and enduring story.
For sure. All right. Until next time, keep diving deep into history.